Meeting is now started. So let's have a flag salute, and Melissa will be leading us on the flag salute.
Please stand, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Melissa. All righty. So roll call, please.
Director Hussler,
Here.
Director Holt. Here. Director
Lang,
Here.
Director Huffer,
Yes.
Director Nichols.
Okay, we have some special presentations. I'm very excited about these because you all know I have, used a skip loader over at the teen center. So I'm pretty experienced as a heavy equipment operations. And of course, the teen summer musicals I'm personally interested in. That's actually where one of my daughters met her future husband, was at a teen summer musical. So I'm very excited to have these. So let's start presenting. Heavy equipment operations.
Evening, everybody. How are you? My name is Mark Gann. I am the equipment operator for the district. I have been doing this for the district since 1999. And what I have here is a little presentation of just a few of the projects and the jobs that I do on a regular or annual basis, and also some of the groups that I work with, internal and outside agencies, and just a few of the things that I do regularly: field refurbishments and special projects, weed abatement. Honestly, the list goes on and on. So this first video is with recreation. This is an archery range that I did the earthwork for at Conejo Community. Oh, I guess I can talk in here. Hi. This was very satisfying. I'm sure they use it regularly. And the next one, I imagine everybody is familiar with, especially this lady over here. It's Touch a Truck, where we bring tractors and trucks, and other agencies bring tons of items for the kids to have hands-on experience. And what I do there is, with the dump truck, the kids throw the beach balls in the dump truck and I dump them out. And as you'll hear, I would have never guessed in a million years how much fun they have, but you'll hear me in there too. Every time we do this, I must do it 50 times in a day. And I lose my voice by encouraging the kids, come on, let's go. Let's get those beach balls in the back of the truck. Sooner we do it, the sooner we get to do it again. And it is truly satisfying. In this next video, this is, I have the opportunity to work with Casca Park Rangers. Actually, I just did a job Monday, Tuesday out at Rancho Potrero, which I'm sure you'll see soon on the opening day. But this is Hill Canyon open space. This was a vehicle access road, which became too narrow due to erosion. So we came up with a plan to widen the road, and I rented a big monster of an excavator, and we opened it up about 15 feet wider. So now all vehicular traffic can drive on it, including fire trucks. This is me in my glory, just having fun. All that got compacted, and the road is just nice and wide, and it's still holding up. Our sister agency, the city of TO, this is Fireworks Hill. For maybe 15 years, I would go up there every year prior to the show and do the weed abatement, and also bring a couple truckloads of sand to put underneath their forms. They put in their PVC pipes, which they call mortars, and I would backfill them for stability. So as you can see, it is quite a big event. I imagine everybody has seen the show, and I've been, sorry about that, guys. I've been fortunate enough to be up on top a couple occasions, and it is just spectacular. So again, working with all agencies, this is Caltrans yard in Simi, Moore Park area, right off the 118 freeway. They donated us material on a number of occasions. This is asphalt grindings that I used at a couple of our parks the dog park and the horse arena before it got paved. And I would have a question for any of your board members that want to guess, how many yards or tons do you think that 10-wheel dump truck holds? Well, that's a good guess, but fortunately, I'm able to hold 8 because what
Wow.
each yard of material, each cubic yard is approximately, I thought you would get that, Nellie. It's approximately 1.5 tons. So in this dump truck, which is my biggest, we can carry 12 tons legal. So here we are at the ETI Corral number 37, our big equestrian facility right there next to the dog park on Las Flores. This is their show arena, and their tractor was down. So with Tom's approval, I went over there and I finish graded it prior to their big soiree. We got a little hiccup, boys and girls. I do actually. I filmed it and I'm like, oh man. Sorry guys for the technical delay here. Don't know if it's me. Is it me? Oh, we're up. Oh, all right, here we go. This is Conejo Creek North, the Master Garden plot. Back in 2011, I believe it was 2011, we broke ground there and I helped do the earthwork for, I want to say there's 5 or 6 or even 7 gardens of various countries of the world. So people can come there and experience what they have to offer there, and they're all drought tolerant. So a couple of gardens help the public learn how to be water wise. Field refurbishments. That is an ongoing project, but this is our professional ball field at Conejo Creek South. As you can see, those groove marks, that's my finish grading the day before the big game. So field refurbishments, again, we have 6 to 8 weeks from start to finish to start digging out the dirt, and by the time the kids get to play on it again. So this project was at Rancho Conejo. This is a little one, 10,000 square foot of removal. And to give an idea what it takes to do that, there's some of the iron it takes to accomplish this feat. Maybe it's me. Dos Vientos community. This was a 3-year project with over 80,000 square foot of removal. What we had to do there was convert the turf to a much more hardy Bermuda that holds up to heavy play. This is 1 cubic yard. It took me 2 minutes to move over to a stockpile, and there were 800 cubic yards there. So you get an idea just how much time that takes. And there's another gentleman getting ready to haul this stuff into the parking lot for our future export and refurbishment. Same ball field, finish graded, about 500 cubic yards of topsoil. This is a day before the new sod came in. I apologize. I'm clicking. Here we are with the brand new sod, pretty darn level with brand new radius lines around every ball field. The kids will be on that within 4 weeks, I'm sure. So something I like to take credit for, I implemented back in '99. I suggested to my supervisor at the time, let's start taking this old dirt somewhere and not haul it out. So this is the horse arena. So what we do is we bring in 100, 200 yards and I knock it down and compact it, and we create more usable space so they can add more corrals. So when I got here in '99, there were 4, there are 10 there now. So as you can see, this is kind of prior, this is before, maybe 500 cubic yards. And that's what it looks like afterwards. We got a big dozer and a sheep's foot, which is a big monster that I pull behind me and compact it. So now they can increase the width of this corral or add more. So as some of you might know, I'm a numbers guy, and around every year, I think we pull out about 1,000 cubic yards or 1,500 tons. Had we taken that to the dump, easy $60,000 just to dump. Now, mind that does not take into the cost of the fuel or the wear and tear. So over the course of 23 years, I'd like to think that I saved the district well over $1.38 million. Thank you. Went in a long time to tell you guys that. Thanks for the opportunity. There we go. So as I stated earlier, we recycle the materials. So all this old sod goes over and we stockpile it for 2 years and it ends up composting. Also the sand that we take out of the playgrounds that get refurbished. So on a semi-annual basis, I rent this big monster called a trommel or a dirt sifter. As you can see out of the back end, all the old rocks, the big rocks come out and all the fine topsoil, 1/4 inch or less comes out of this end. So all this soil gets used yearly. So of course, we don't have to go out and buy it. So as you see coming up, we also make a custom blend. And this is some beautiful garden soil that I made eventually. Come on, let's go. And this was, every crew member sought this out. And you'll see momentarily where that came from. One more time, numbers. If we were to buy all this material from the supplier, I estimate $33,000. Again, that does not count the cost of trucking, which is astronomical nowadays. So that trommel was not cheap to rent, but minus the cost of the trommel and the loader, there's a little profit of $24,000. As I said earlier, we do this on a semi-annual basis. One of my favorite projects is retaining walls. This is our trash enclosure retaining wall. I think this was the second one I put in. First one was at Conejo Creek North. Oh, real quick here. 3,500 pound blocks. As you can see, the crew member put the chain over and I pick it up. It just slides right into place and locks into the ear. And if anybody can read lips, what did I say? Perfect. I was real proud of that job. It's still there. So back to organization or lack thereof. This is how we used to keep our material. All right, yeah, no, this is a better way. Here it is. Another retaining wall material bin that I helped design and build. And so now all the crew members can come in and get sand or DG or you name it. They've got plenty of material there. And when that material exhausts, I either replenish it or order more. Much more organized here. So remember that beautiful black soil? That's where it came from. Conejo Creek North pond cleaning. We do that about every 2 or 3 years in celebration of Veterans Day. And what lives there? About 1,000 ducks. So all that stuff gets to sit and compost. And then when it's all dried out, I run it through the trommel with a mixture of sand and dirt. And it becomes that beautiful black garden hummus, whatever you want to call it, stuff that you saw earlier. A special project that I did with the park rangers because they're really good at rocks. This is called the Gratitude Circle. This was the site of Tex Ward's tree about in the middle there, and during heavy rains it came down. So the park planners came up with this really cool design. And when we put it in, what it is for is in appreciation of all the members of the public who donate time and money to the Play Conejo effort. So when people do that, you see this is a finished product, they'll get their name on a plaque permanently up there. We appreciate all that. Weed abatement. Every year, especially this year, it rained good. So we have pretty tall weeds. So my job is to put an implement on the back of my tractor, which is called a flail mower, or I like to call it a hammer mower because it has 4-inch hammers on it. And this is 6 foot tall, probably over 6 feet tall, mustered at McCrae Ranch. So this is a before. When I run over it with a hammer mower, that's what it looks like after. So needless to say, the whole thing gets cleared like that and no fire danger anymore. Emergency response. As you know, we are a public agency, and unfortunately we had to come right down into our yard. So before the fire got there, I broke out the loader and I did a little fire break on the east side of the yard, and all the crew members got in there and they got the fire hoses out and they assisted the fire department with facilitating keeping that fire out of our yard. We like that yard. And Caltrans, again, donate us these things called K-rails, which I like to call portable retaining walls. Had to get a big machine because mine couldn't handle it. So we installed them at the Shumash Museum because after the fires, there was nothing, no vegetation to hold back the subsequent mud and flows. So we installed those so it would not cause damage to the museum. Again, unfortunately, at the same site, at the Shumash Center, we lost tons of trees, most of them oaks. So I rented a big machine to help facilitate removing those trees from the trails and the roads, but we left them on the side, so although it would become wildlife habitat. So all those things are still there and little critters are using them to make little houses and whatnot. Flooding, well, people say it doesn't rain in California, but as this young man over here sure knows, that's my support team over there. This is Conejo Creek North at the exit. Every year when it rains, that drain would clog up, and for the longest time, we could not figure out why it would clog up. So he went down and found the big 12-inch drain pipe, and well, this root was all the way up as far as it can go in the pipe. It was well over 30 feet. So we hooked up a chain to it, pulled it out. That root came out, all that water, boom, our drain is cleared. So again, I want to thank you, board members, for allowing me to give you an idea of just some of the things that I do and here with the district. And as you see, I like to cook. And if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
That was very interesting. So I'm sure everybody has a comment. Director Lang.
Yes, thank you. I had a number of questions, but by the time your presentation ended,
Oh, I
answered
took too
most-
long. I'm so sorry.
you answered most of
Oh,
them.
good, good. Thank you.
Yes, and I was happy to hear the answers about using the recycled sod and other things that you remove and then it gets reused, and that's really great.
Thank you, thank you. That that's what we got to do to keep our planet going.
Yes, and also the opening part about the dump truck and those beach balls, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I've been to a number of the events as the
Sure.
rest of the board members have, and that is truly, was that your idea to begin with? Yeah, I think so. There's Miss Idea of CRPD, one of many people with CRPD who comes up with great ideas. But I, like the rest, have been to those events and seeing the kids and how excited they are and so forth. I think it's great. I have an idea, but I won't share it here. I'll share it with.
Find me on the park, maybe Monday, we'll talk about it.
But anyway, a great presentation. Did you do the video parts and all that?
All the filming is, every job I do, I love to film it, and then it goes on the cloud, so I've always got it. So I've got stuff from way back when. And I had the Robert Nunes, my supervisor, help me do the presentation. He didn't want to take credit, but I'm going to give him the credit. of putting it
Yes,
all
well,
together.
thank him too, and you for the part that you play, not only in the work and construction and with all the big projects that you undertake, but also the service to this park district. You know,
That means the world. to me.
we've got many people, as you know, up and down the line that contribute something, and bringing all that together makes us what we are today. So thank you so much, and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
God bless.
Okay, Director Huffer.
Yeah, I just want to add my thanks for the presentation. It's amazing to see some of that. You mentioned several times renting equipment. Is most of the equipment that you use rented, or some of, I know some of like tractor?
The bigger
and-
stuff was, yeah, but we have like skip loader, a couple little mini excavators, a Bobcat, things like that, the dump truck, trying to get a bigger one, but anyway.
Yeah,
Throw that in.
Considering
but
all the
yeah,
money that
we
you
rent
saved
any-
along the way.
Okay, anything big, I'm able to rent it, and I know what I need for the job, being as I've been doing this actually since '84. So I had a few years' experience before I got to come out here and.
So with all those different equipment that you're operating, a lot of it rentals, does it take some initial training to figure out how to use the equipment, or have you done this long enough, you know how to do every piece of
Well,
heavy
it's funny
equipment in the
you would
world?
mention that because some of the controls are backwards from what I'm used to. And actually, when I tested for this job, I was horrible because I was used to Caterpillar and John Deere. I don't know why you guys hired me, but because I'm here. But anyway, it takes a bit. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get used to, but I've the opportunity to help train a lot of the crew members too, how to, anybody can kind of get in it and kind of move it. And like when I started in '84, I was a carpenter. I couldn't figure out how to get a full scoop for my life. But just time under the seat gets you more experience.
Okay, and you rarely, if ever, allow Tom to get behind any equipment, do you?
Well, I was gonna put a video on because I actually let him run an excavator and do a demo at Conejo Schoolyard when we demoed a small restroom building. But it was such an old camera I had and it really, really horrible. And like, I gotta give him a little bit of credit. He does run that manual bulldozer pretty darn good though. Very good. Very great.
Anyway, thank you.
My pleasure.
Director Holt, do you have any comments?
Well, I'm very impressed by the presentation. Since this is all new stuff to me, I can't make any more comments.
Okay.
But it's very impressive.
Well, thank you. And honestly, anytime you're around and you want to get on, I'll put you on it. Like I said, got to get on it to learn. Or we'll see each other at the golf course again. Of course, my pleasure.
Okay, and Director Nichols.
Madam Chair. Thanks, Mark. Great presentation. Rather than heavy prison operation, special ops force. It's across everything. And I appreciate how you integrate with so many different. Program. This kind of shows how the relationships and our district works. Foresight. You didn't mention about how many pieces of equipment have experience, but there are projects that say, hey, Mark, can you do this or can you do that? Matter of, again, give me this and this and this and this. And then how does that process work? Is to when is something you can do right now and something you can do with some equipment before you get a hire somebody?
Well, I mean, I've had so much experience doing subterraneans and just big jobs, and these are all kind of small, so they're pretty easy. We did do a job, like I mentioned earlier, at Rancho Potrero Open Space, and Andrew had said, well, if you want to have a contractor come out and do it, we'll do that. But I'm like, no, I got it. So it was basically 22 tons of boulders. I just kind of figured my tractor, the little mini excavator, and we placed all the boulders around the perimeter for strategic seating. So it's kind of just, you tell me what job you got, just like if I do a side job for you, and I'll tell you what tractor you need.
Okay.
So that's how we roll.
All right.
Just really quick, could you turn on your microphones? They can't hear anything online. Oh, interesting. They couldn't
me?
hear anybody. Maybe.
Might have been before you.
Okay. All right. The green light's on. You're talking about the different soils that you have and that you're pulling materials from the refurbishment. And then you also showed that little slide of the retaining wall where that appears to be materials that you purchase and then they just dump on site, but probably a mixture of things like that. Is with all this refurbishment and generating of soils, is that a balancing act? I mean, do you continually have materials coming and going, or you have to balance that? Or do you know that you need to have certain types of materials at certain times of the year? Or is this just kind of a case-by-case basis?
We try to have stuff on hand, like we got Conejo Creek South coming up, the refurb, and the crew leader asked, can we use all the sand we have stockpiled now? But time frame wise, we don't have enough time to rent the machine in this particular case. So like all the stuff you saw in the bins, some stuff we buy, like the DG, I don't generate.
Yeah.
But we're able to use everything that I've generated for either filling holes or trenches or backfilling main lines. So a lot of times all that stuff sits there till we need it. But as material is needed, I do crunch the numbers and help the crew leaders or anybody, the supervisors who need to know, and we order it appropriately.
Mhm. And with that in mind, have you explored getting into the vermiculture business, or where you start mixing the organic materials with the worms and really get these nice rich soils?
Yeah, unfortunately, with the time frame allotted here, and then all the weeds, because we do get the weeds that come in with it, we leave that for the professionals over at Peach Hill or somewhere else.
Yeah, that's very labor intensive for things like that.
It is, and yeah, I mean, I would love to have a trommel. I would love to have the area where we could tumble our own material, even the green waste and stuff like that. But there's only so much we could do.
Sure. Last thing I want to know is, do you get paid for your job, or you just,
I just
You
have
just
fun
have
here.
fun.
I mean, I can't believe I do get paid. To be honest with you, I've said that before, and yes, I do. And
Okay.
I enjoy every little bit I do.
but it seems like you really enjoy it and appreciate the presentation. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Just kind of alluding expanding upon what Director Nichols was saying. Your guys are like seeing maybe 1/10 of what Mark does or less. And I mean, not just what he does. He's not an equipment operator. Then just to give Mark some more props, he's not, hey, Mark, go do this. It's Mark's got the smarts and the intelligence and the project management skills and the organizational skills. Half or more than half of the stuff he thinks of, it's his ideas and his brainchild. It's always kind of neat to go out with Mark and go, we got to do something here. And then he loves to go, and he figures it out and he draws it out and he does all sorts of different things. So he's incredibly talented, both physically and mentally for the job. And then the patience that he has, I mean, yeah, we were joking about me too, but the amount the way he teaches the other guys on how to use the equipment. And so right, he might say, I'm gonna need this, this, and this, but he might say, and I need 2 guys, and don't, give me this one and this one, not that one or whatever. And he organizes the team. So yes, he has a supervisor in Robert Nunes, but Mark runs the show and he's an extremely valuable member of the team. It's amazing the amount of stuff that he does and the advantages he brings to the district. So I just want to say that before Director Cusworth talked.
Thank you. I was highly impressed with your presentation, and being a first grade teacher and a grandmother of 2 3-year-old boys. You probably have a dream job of a lot of little boys growing up. That's kind of what they like to do. So I'm just curious, on a personal note, what brought you into being a heavy equipment operator? What field path made you decide? Or were you like a young kid watching, going to touch a truck and having all the little things in the sandbox and always wanting to be around big trucks?
Well, I out of high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Almost joined the Air Force. I actually worked for a stuntman for a little bit, building the airbags for him. And I also worked in construction. I was a gopher, go for this, go for that. And so I started banging nails, as I affectionately call it, in 78. And I lived in Topanga Canyon, where I met my wife. And every day I'd see my buddy drive down the road with a dump truck and a tractor. I'm like, man, that sure looks fun. So finally, he told his boss, and his boss was growing, their company was growing. And they took me sight unseen, said, oh, here you go. This is how you drive a tractor. And I couldn't get a bucket. My life depended on it. And that was back in 84. And I've been doing that ever since. And it's fun. I love moving dirt in the private sector. I demolished houses. I did subterraneans, all sorts of big things. But this is different because it's more personal. I get to see everything I've done. Kimber Park or the dog park, things that I will always be there that I had my hand in completing. So I love what I do.
How long have you been with CRPD?
23 years in July.
Okay. Oh, your enthusiasm for your work shines through. And I was thinking, you are doing things that you are for years being able to appreciate. A lot of times, you do things and then, that's kind of gone or something else replaces it. But I mean, this is a huge benefit, and so many things that I didn't know. I mean, I never thought they refurbished ball fields. I thought they just always looked like that. Or maybe people just took a rake, like when you go to Dodger Stadium, they go out with those things on the 7th inning or something. I thought, well, that's probably all they ever have to do, isn't it? So I was very impressed to learn about, how much work it goes in to maintain those things and your whole composting. So I'm assuming this was all your idea, correct? To do all of that. I mean, that was really genius and, very earth friendly and way to save money and just, fabulous ideas. So
Thank you.
I'm glad that even though you couldn't work our equipment, that CRPD did have the foresight to hire you. They picked the right man for the job,
I think
obviously.
so, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you
Of
very
course.
much. Oh, and I wanted to say one thing. I've been at McCrae Ranch when I've only been able to see the horses' heads over
Oh, yeah.
walking through. You see these horse heads kind of walking through all that mustard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I have an appreciation that you can take it down like that because, yeah, that mustard can get up pretty high.
Yeah,
So,
it was scary a couple of years ago. It was over 8 feet tall and it's kind of flat. And I was nervous running through it because I didn't know what I was going to run into. I've done crazy jobs on hills and falling through buildings with tractors. And I was nervous mowing down over 8 feet tall stuff. And of course, now I kind of know the terrain. It's like, it's nothing.
well, thank you. Thank you
course.
so much for, applying and sticking with us and bringing all of
Sure.
your
Oh,
expertise
you're
to
my
the
family
district.
too, and I'm going to be here till I'm not. Wife told me today, you keep working.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
And now on a completely different note, which I thought was interesting when I first looked at that, I go, we're getting two completely different views of what goes on at CRPD. So let's hear from our arts department, our drama department, one of my personal favorite departments here.
I'm going to introduce Megan from Zoomland for us. She is running our program, Megan McDonough. She is our amazing cultural programs coordinator, and she has put together an amazing presentation that'll be shared with you. She's going to be a voice from afar, and then she's going to show you guys some also awesome images of the 42 years of our Teen Summer Musical program. And I'm hoping she's on. She's in the waiting room.
I'm here. Can you see me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can't see you yet. But, oop, gotcha. All right.
All right.
Take it away, Megan.
Good evening, Chair Cusworth and members of the board and staff. I'm Megan McDonough, Cultural Programs Coordinator. And with me tonight is our new Cultural Programs Supervisor, Brianne Anderson, and our Recreation Services Manager, Melissa Rufio. I'm going to disappear for a while you see our slideshow. We were last scheduled to present to the board on March 26th, 2020. At that time, we were just beginning work on our 40th annual Teen Summer Musical, which was supposed to be Les Miserables. The board presentation was ready to go when, about a week before, you might recall, the whole world shut down. And so tonight, it is my privilege and pleasure to present to you 42 years of Teen Summer Musicals. The Young Artists Ensemble's Teen Summer Musical has been a Conejo Valley tradition since 1981, when CRPD, through the efforts of Steve Wiley and Shelley Sinclair, applied for and received a Tri-Valley Youth Services grant to help produce a summer musical with the primary goal of providing a positive alternative for young people to have a fun and fulfilling summer experience. Under the direction of Shelley Sinclair, 90 teens came out for the inaugural production of Lil Abner on the stage at Borchard Community Center. I have been privileged to reconnect with some of those teens in recent years, and man, do they have fond memories. 42 years later, it is clear this program had a positive, lasting impact, both in terms of inspiring continued participation in and appreciation of the performing arts, and in the formation of lifelong friendships. This was the beginning of an annual summer program that would impact the lives of thousands of teens in the same magical way 42 times over, with plans to continue for at least 42 more. During the early years, one challenge was finding the right venue to accommodate the enormous popularity of the program. These days, Teen Summer Musical has highly competitive auditions, and every role is hard won, with casts ranging from 25 to 40 actors and 10 to 20 orchestra musicians. But back in the beginning, we found a place for everyone, sometimes over 100 teens. And if finding a place for them in the play was challenging, finding a stage to hold them all was even more challenging. The Teen Summer Musical began on the Borchard Community Center stage, then moved to Sequoia Middle School, then settled at Westlake High School for 9 years. Then, with the opening of the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza, the Teen Summer Musical found a home on the Share Forum stage for 18 summers. In 2013, the venue moved to Thousand Oaks High School and then to the beautiful facility at Newbury Park High School in 2017. 2020 shook everything up with a world trying to survive in modified quarantine. I'm going to digress for a moment before I continue with the history of the program to tell you the heroic tale of the 2020 Teen Summer Musical. As I mentioned, we were in the planning stages of our 40th anniversary show. It was going to be epic. Mark Andrew Reyes directing Les Miserables. The teens were already abuzz with anticipation. We were putting together an incredible all-star production team, and suddenly it all came to a crashing halt. We spent the next several weeks trying to brainstorm our options. We could do a streamed concert version. We could stream a concert of a different show. We could cancel altogether. Every member of our production team without hesitation said, no way. We can't do nothing. The kids need something. And across the board, the conversation was never about needing income, which we did, or needing to provide work for our staff. The conversation was always about what does the community need, specifically the teens who were sacrificing once in a lifetime milestones every week. We had all been those teens. We knew just how fleeting those teen summers really are and how enduring and formative the experiences contained within them. The kids needed something. So the brain started bubbling. What if we switched to a show with no rights restrictions, so however we ended up needing to perform, we could do it? The Pirates of Penzance. What if we built literal walls between the performers? Would they be able to sing together then? Outside? But we can only gather in groups of 10. How can we do a full musical with only 10 performers? What if we rehearse and film the ensemble separately? We could pull it off with 20. Then what if we combined live footage with recorded footage? Do we even know anyone who can do that? Look to the alumni, they can do anything. And in an avalanche of questions and solutions, a plan was hatched. An insane, ambitious, wonderfully ridiculous plan. The show was amazing. Those teens rose to the occasion and were incredible. It was the most stressful and rewarding week in the life of pretty much everyone involved. And somehow, a year later, the pandemic still raged, but there was a little more leeway. We could gather before an audience again. And if we returned to the Thousand Oaks Bank of America Performing Arts Center, the actors could perform unmasked. Les Miserables brought out the best in everyone involved as actors and audience were moved to tears by the simple act of being together again and the outrageously incredible act of putting on a first-rate musical experience. But back to the beginning. In 1982, YAE staged its second teen summer musical, Finian's Rainbow, and received a California Park and Recreation Society Excellence in Programming Award, the first of many, many awards over the next 4 decades. In 1985, Shelley Sinclair passed the mantle of director over to Linda Stiegler. Both of these incredible women devoted countless hours above and beyond the call of duty to make certain participants had a summer they would remember and cherish the rest of their lives. Sean Crosby, an alumnus of Linda Stiegler's 1985 MAME, shared this photo of a cast party that he keeps on his desk to this day. 1986 was the first teen summer musical for an important person who would come to define and steer the program for the next 35 years, Scott Buchanan. Under Scott's direction as the cultural programs coordinator and later supervisor, Young Artists Ensemble's Teen Summer Musical became the pinnacle of youth theatrical experience in the region. 1993 saw the Pirates of Penzance set sail with a new director at the helm, Mark Andrew Reyes. While Mark has not directed every teen summer musical since 1993, he does wear the crown as our most prolific director, taking his total to 14 of 42 this last summer. That's a solid 33%. Mark was at the helm when we premiered our first teen summer musical in the Share Forum Theater with Jesus Christ Superstar in 1995. And he was again at the helm 26 years later when we returned in 2021 with Les Miserables. When Pirates of Penzance circumnavigated around again in 2004, it came with the incredible director Robert Schneider. An alumni performer himself, Rob brought us his encyclopedic knowledge of musical theater history and an incredible eye for stage pictures. After directing several young artist ensemble productions, Rob left us to take over the world of musical theater as we always knew he would. Rob has been elected Penn State's favorite professor 4 years running and helms his own off-Broadway theater company in New York City. One of the things that truly helped us up our game was the addition of Broadway veteran Mamie Paul to our stable of directors. Mamie came on board to direct 2009's West Side Story, and despite moving to Florida, still returns to direct for us every few years, most recently directing In the Heights 2018 and Young Frankenstein 2019. Mamie brought with her an extraordinary level of dance choreography to challenge and excite our teen performers, and we haven't looked back. During our tenure at Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza, the production quality and competitive casting prestige of the teen summer musical skyrocketed. By the time we got to Chicago 2011 and Cabaret 2012, we had performers so good they were on Broadway within 2 years of performing with us. The dual headliners of 2011's Chicago, Tessa Grady and Veronica Dunn, both found themselves with incredible professional contracts by 2013. Tessa left a position as choreographer for our 2013 teen summer musical 42nd Street a week early to join the Broadway cast of Annie. Pardon me. And Veronica had to make the difficult choice excuse me, between simultaneous offers to play the daughter in Mamma Mia on Broadway or a lead role in the Disney Channel show Kickin' It. Veronica chose Hollywood and has been a Disney Channel staple ever since. And that stardom led to an opportunity to play Roxy Hart in Chicago on Broadway in 2016 and again in 2019. Also currently taking Broadway by storm are TSM performers Jonalyn Saxer, Daniel David Stewart, AJ Holmes, Sarah Jean Forn, Satari Folkestone, and Michael Seltzer. Pardon me. And if I tried to list the incredible careers our alumni have had outside of Broadway, we'd be here all day. Film directors, talent coordinators, professional musicians, audiobook narrators, QVC hosts, writers, teachers, lawyers, doctors, artists, scholars, all calling on the skills they learned in our teen summer musical. Live music has always been an essential component of the teen summer musical program. Our current longtime orchestra director, Susan Truji Calkins, began her steady tenure of teen summer musicals in 2001. So this summer will be her 22nd consecutive year. In the past, we have occasionally added college or community players, but since 2013, Susan is proud to say we are completely all teen. Having an all-teen orchestra makes our musicians eligible for consideration in the annual National Youth Arts Awards. Susan is quite competitive, we have learned, and she will not let anything get in the way of an NYA award, even if it means her devoted husband and amazing guitarist Glenn must sit on the sidelines. And no list of key players in teen summer musical history would be complete without the musical direction maestro, Zach Spencer. Last summer's Les Miserables marked 22 teen summer musicals for Zach, who started out making our teens sound so very good with Grease back in 1989. Over the years, we've had some incredible key theater professionals behind the scenes to ensure a first-rate theater experience. Set designers, lighting designers, sound designers, costumers, stage managers, rigging experts, marketing, publicity, and a technical director and producer to wrangle it all together. And of course, there is one more major contributor to this program since the very beginning and at every performance, every summer for 42 years, our amazing audiences. We often focus on the incredible impact the Teen Summer Musical program has had on the talented teens that have performed for us. But this program has had an even wider impact on the Conejo Valley. The Teen Summer Musical has become a long-standing annual community event with an average of nearly 2,000 ticket buyers every summer. Many families make it an annual tradition, whether they have a participant or not. Some long after their youth performer has aged out, while others begin their annual tradition long before their budding performer is old enough to try out. And some families and theater goers just love great theater and know the Young Artist Ensemble's Teen Summer Musical is guaranteed to be one of the highest quality shows in the community each year. We are so very proud of this crown jewel of our youth theater programming. 41 and a half years of Teen Summer Musicals has been an incredible ride. Remember those awards I mentioned earlier? In recent years alone, Teen Summer Musicals have won a total of 40 National Youth Arts Awards and garnered an additional 60 nominations, won 14 VC Awards, received an Encore statue from the City of Thousand Oaks for excellence in the arts, and a 2017 Excellence in the Arts Awards from the City of Thousand Oaks for arts education. Every time we have challenged our Conejo Valley teens to take it to the next level, they have doubled down on us and taken it even higher. I can't wait to see how this year's Teen Summer Musical number 42 will raise the bar even higher. Thank you so much for 42 years of support. I am happy to answer any questions.
We're going to pull her up so she can answer questions, and Ian and myself can also answer questions.
I'll wait till she's
We're
up.
working on it.
Yeah, and just super quick, many of you may not know Brianne, who's also standing in front of you, our new addition to the Cultural Arts Department. So Brianne, we welcome you also. And Megan, you did an awesome job. Thank you for joining us when I know you're under the weather.
Yes, thank you so much, Megan. I mean, I'm kind of feel emotional just with pride for that wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, that was wonderful. So let's start on this side. Director Nichols, do you have anything you'd like to say?
You know, I've was kind of reflecting on some of the accomplishments, you know, and I know we've heard many times about the extended careers that many of the alumni have had, which is very impressive. And whether it's a matter of just having the innate ability within themselves or what they glean from being a participant in this program. But I think it's certainly a reflection of the community as a whole, of the staff of the program, and the opportunities. And I think with the recognitions, whether it be the awards, the accomplishments, I mean, that's very impressive. But to me, what stands out is just being able to have something like that to attend as a member of the audience every summer is thrilling, you know, to be able to have that. Where so many communities don't even, you know, compare to what we have. And so to me, that's what strikes me the most is with all those accomplishments, whether individually or as a group, that just to be able to have that quality, that caliber within our very own community of something like that every summer to go to is just very impressive. So thank you to all of you for keeping that tradition up for all these years.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting each summer when we see how far auditioners come from, because it really speaks to our reputation. And we've always had auditioners coming from Los Angeles, from Ventura, but last summer did set the record with someone coming all the way from Chicago to audition for us and then not getting in.
Director Holt?
Well, I'm impressed. I mean, of course, I came from a smaller town, and it was only the high school that put on programs like this, and nothing quite like what I've seen, I think. You know, but this is so wonderful that this is for the whole community. And what do we have? 3 high schools here. We have, you know, sources to bring in the teenagers, and it's just such a great experience. It's just very impressive, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved with it. So Thank you.
Thank you. And we do attract a lot of the homeschool kids as well, which is giving them an opportunity to be in an organized theater experience.
Director Huffer.
Yeah, I'm a relative newcomer to attending the teen summer musicals. I've only been doing it for about 10 years. But I grew up as a huge fan of musicals from the time my parents would dress me up in a coat and tie and we'd go to the local theater to see some of the Hollywood productions of the classic musicals. Never got to see any musicals on Broadway, but Los Angeles and elsewhere still love the classical musicals. But the first time and every time since that I've been in attendance at one of the teen summer musicals, I'm just totally in awe. The productions, the quality of the actors and actresses that are singing, they're dancing. Probably the one that blew me the way most was 42nd Street. How these young people could even figure out how to tap dance, and the job they did during that production was absolutely unbelievable. So I'm a little familiar with the history, but all of the details that you were talking about, the awards that your program has won over the last 42 years, kudos to everybody involved, past, present, and future.
Thank you.
And Director Lang.
Yes. Megan, you might have covered this, but the audio wasn't the best, and now the video isn't the best either. But anyway, in your alumni list that you go back to for various performances, how many approximately individuals that have been through your program, our program, Scott's program, et cetera, how many individuals might be on that list?
How many individual alumni?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. We would be in the thousands at this point.
Okay.
Easily, yeah.
And when some of those seasoned alumni do come back, do you still see that spark, that enthusiasm that maybe they were experiencing when they first performed?
I absolutely do. You know, we were working on an alumni fundraiser concert when the pandemic first started. And one of the things that I had the great privilege to do was reach out to folks representing the whole 40 years of alumni, and was just overwhelmed by the affection that came back from people who were in the first, second, third shows, and how much they still count their best friends from their experience there, and how much the impact of being part of that meant to them, and how absolutely thrilled they were with the idea of coming back to sing something for a fundraiser, because they believed so strongly 40 years later in the importance of theater for teens, and what this program allowed them to embrace and allows every generation to explore and embrace. We're so proud of those generations of alumni. But I think the best thing for me is when I hear how much we still mean to them, and how important they think the work that we do is, having been the product of it.
Well, great presentation. And in reference to, I lost my train of thought, sorry. But in reference to the previous performers, did some of them still, get together and audition for something down in LA or Broadway, et cetera?
Yeah, that's part of what I was just scratching the surface on with that page of alumni photos, is that they're doing incredible things all over the spectrum. And we've got, one of our alums just had her first feature film premiere a year and a half ago. We've had others who are, blowing up the audiobook scene, and just finished his 100th audiobook. And still others who are incredible QVC hosts. So they're all using their skills in ways we couldn't have even possibly predicted. We've got a really amazing representation on the New York stages right now, But for me, what's more incredible when we look at 40 years is the ways that the skills and the poise and the confidence that they learned, at least in part on our stages, have brought them success in whatever field they've gone into. And we've got someone curing cancer in Texas and another person who's digging up dinosaur fossils in Utah. And, you know, all of those things require presentation and poise and the ability to speak confidently. And we can take a little tiny bit of pride in everything they do in the ways in which we might have helped to influence them and make them the best at what they do.
That's wonderful. And piggybacking on what Director Nichols said, there aren't many, or if any, communities that have had such a program, successful program over the years as we've had. And I go back a few more years in Director Huffer. I remember a number of them that were performed in the 90s, and going from place to place, you don't know where you're going to be in the next performance. But, you know, Judy and I would always track you down and end up attending and appreciating it. So Megan, keep up your great work and your whole organization. You're very much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
So Megan, I've known you've been around for a long time. Did you act in the musicals?
My first teen summer musical was also Gypsy 1986. I was 12 at the time, but we didn't have our firm age limits then that we do have now. Otherwise, I would have been too young.
Yeah, I thought you did. That was very touching to me. Like, and when you were talking, Director Lang, about them getting together, not professionally, but I know my daughter Leah was saying she was down here visiting and said, "Oh, Rob was in town, so you know we got together with Rob Snyder." That Rob was one of her best friends, and when I saw that picture, I thought, "Oh, I still see Rob as 16 because he was over at our house so much." And
although Rob looked 40 at 16 too, yeah.
Looks what?
He looked 40
Yeah.
at 16, yeah.
He did. We used to always laugh about that, you know, he would always have to play the old man parts when he was doing the plays, because he did. He always looked old. He always did. But he was so good, and he was always directing the plays at TO High when he was a teenager, you know, when he was just one of the kids there, because he was so talented. And so that's wonderful that he came back to do, because he lives in New York, you know, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that he would come back to do that. And I remember Sarah Ford, only that she would always beat out my daughter Anna in auditions, and they had the same voice teacher, and we'd go and listen to him. And I thought, you know, you love your own kid, but you just think, man, she's really good. Sarah was really good. Just all the wonderful things that you've done. And when you talked about, you know, giving poise in other areas, I can see that with my kids. None of them have become professional, except my Hank, my son-in-law, but I don't know how professional a, you know, theater teacher is, but they have become very poised and able to do things. And I think a lot of it is being on stage. It takes a lot of guts to get up on stage and do that. And a lot of kids just get into it when they're young, and then they move up, and then all of a sudden they're in these big productions. I mean, I don't think a lot of people would be able to get up and sing and dance in front of a whole, you know, theater like that. And the projections are just so good. We've always enjoyed them. And I'm glad that you stuck in there, Megan. You've been, you know, in the administrative side, means, you know, such a wonderful asset to Reckham Park. And do you think you'll stay around as long as Scott did? I hope so.
We'll see. But thank you so much. Yeah, we're really, really proud of the Teen Summer Musical history. And so I was really thrilled to be able to present tonight.
Well, you did an amazing job, a really amazing job. And oh, one other thing I wanted to say, do you know what it brings is excellent, superior theater at a very reasonable price. Last year when we went to see Les Mis, I'm watching it, and my husband and I kept turning at each other and going, how much did we pay for these tickets? You know, you would have to pay quadruple the amount to get quality theater like that. And we
I
have it
feel
here
very
at
strongly it's the best show that happens in the Conejo Valley each year. I think these teens are just incredible, and they work so hard.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all the hard work that you go into producing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I feel fulfilled just at our presentations today. In fact, I'm kind of, I always do that though, don't I, after these? I
Yes,
feel
Nellie.
emotionally spent with pride and devotion for being a part of this organization and all that we do. So, but moving along to some of the more boring things that we do. So items from the public. Do we have anything today? No. Okay. We'll have an approval for the agenda. Can we have a motion?
So move. So
Okay.
second.
Thank you very
So
much.
second.
Did we get that? Aline, thank you. And the consent calendar A and B.
We need to vote.
Oh, we have to vote. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that. We did the roll call.
You only got
we
6
did
more
that.
votes.
We just have to vote. So all in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll approve consent
you.
calendar items A and B.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that? Thank you, Director Holt, and all approved?
All in favor? Aye.
I think it's the same thing, isn't it? All in favor, all opposed? Nobody's opposed. Did I say opposed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all righty. So now we have deferred matters. And do I need to announce the public hearing here?
Yeah, so just let us know that we do have a public hearing. We open the public hearing. And if we have anyone from the audience that have anything they'd like to mention,
No? Okay, so do I have to close the public
Yeah.
hearing? Public hearing is closed. All right, do we have any items for discussion that we're bringing up? All right, moving on to new items. So A, Amendment 2. So I think this will be Mr. Hare.
yes, thanks, Chair, Cusworth, members of the board. Asking to authorize general manager to enter an amendment number 2 for a contract for landscape services with Azteca Landscape. In 2016, we, after a competitive request for proposal process, we awarded a 5-year contract with 2 1-year extensions to Azteca. Last year, we extended it for the 6th year, and then this would be extending it for the final year, and then we would go out for another request for proposal for next fiscal year of 23-24. Also included in the amendment, besides the time extension, is also to increase the price from just under $45,000 to just over $49,000 due to the 7.4% CPI increase and the additional acreage that we added at Banyan Park a few years back. With that, I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Director Nichols.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Regarding the CPI increase, can you tell me how the contract is structured? Is this such that each year where there's an amendment option, that rather than going through the process where the contractor rebids, that it's just, is this set in place? How is that structured?
It's the way it's structured. It could be the contract price can change with the mutual agreement upon the parties. Simple as that. So it could be something like due to CPI increase. So we did talk with Azteca about that, or it could be if we like, hey, we're going to do this park now and you're not, so we need to reduce the cost of that. So it's just whatever the mutual agreement is between the 2 parties. There was no set guidelines besides mutually agreeable.
Okay, so then how was it determined that the CPI increase would be the agreed upon increase? Was that just between the 2 parties?
Yes, just between the 2 parties. So they approached us for asking if they could get an increase. They talked about their additional costs that they have. It's a very intensive between the gas costs that they have and equipment costs that they have. It's a very labor intensive and fuel intensive job of services that they do provide. So they approached us and said, hey, before we enter an amendment 2, could we please get an increase from this current year to the next year? So we did a little bit of negotiations, came up with CPI and said that was fair and reasonable.
And which CPI region is used for
The
that?
Los Angeles area is for its Department of Labor.
Okay. Okay. And then going back to the specific items on, this is more of a curiosity thing than anything
Sure.
else. I noticed item number 22 McCray Ranch and item number 36 Stagecoach and Museum, where I know we have staff that are available to do some work. I'm just curious on those types of facilities where we do have staff that helps. What is it that this contract includes for those types of facilities?
It just, a lot of, especially like if you look at McCray Ranch, we added that into the contract back in 2000. It wasn't previously done before because it was becoming a little bit more labor intensive for not enough, there weren't enough hours for the caretaker to take care of everything that needed to be done. And the same thing with Stagecoach. And Stagecoach was museum. Yeah, at $53. It could be just, and honestly, I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to take a look, on those, the entire contract, because we do detail on page C36 and C22, what the description entails. But it could be just pickup of what's going on, some easy mowing, some pruning trees or whatever. I could look it up if.
I just was
Yeah.
curious because obviously, some parks are pretty straightforward, but I know some of our unique facilities, and I knew that we had staff there. I didn't know if there was like a standard activity that they did at these places, or is it just unique to each location?
It's what we do for all of these. It's the way we structure the contract for ease. And of course, like I said, and I'm trying my best to get there, but it's basically like a menu of 75 different tasks. And then what happens for, like I said, look at Glenwood Park right now, we'll say what it says on page C16. So C16 will take of that 75 tasks and take 20 of them.
Okay.
And because then what we do for those tasks are defined in another exhibit saying,
Yes.
this is what mowing means. This is what pruning
Yes,
means. This is
okay.
what gopher control means. And then we pick from that menu and put for each particular park.
Okay.
So mowing and edging is the Stagecoach. end.
Mowing and edging, thank you. I couldn't get there quick enough.
Okay.
That's C35.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I appreciate that because I know we have such a wide variety of facilities and sizes of facilities. I knew there's obviously quite a variety, but
And like you said, in the level of services too, because it depends. Sometimes it's a caretaker, sometimes it's a grounds worker too. Sometimes we do a little bit more in particular park because it might be high visibility. So it
Right.
just depends. That's why we say we use the menu approach and just pick from.
sure. Yeah, and I know, again, like at McCray Ranch, even though we have a staff member that even resides there and there's an expectation of maintenance, they're not an expert in everything. They can only do so much and, they don't have equipment for everything. So obviously you got to
Mhm.
factor in that as well. So, okay, that was it. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hey, thank you. Director Lang.
Yes, Tom, how do you make the decision as to when our staff does some particular landscape work, et cetera, and or turning it over to?
It generally for for neighborhood parks are mostly what we call full service parks. That Azteca will do nearly 100% of the services there. And that's because our staff can't cover it. So then when you get to playfields and community parks where we generally do have a staff member stationed there, they're the ones, so we do more in-house there. But sometimes the price doesn't reflect that only because it's a playfield. So they might do more, they do less things, but there's greater acreage at that particular park. But so it's just, again, it's just a balance. And sometimes it's the type of park, it's the visibility of the park. If it needed, if it's like at Canal Creek North, we do a lot more Canal Creek North because of the high, the amount of patronage that we get there. And so we pay a lot of attention to that park, more so than Azteca does, because we realize we want to get it done and we want our staff to do it.
Do you ever have some of our staff say, hey, Tom, Matt, whoever, this is a project that I think we can do and we have time or whatever, can we start doing it or anything like that ever
Well,
happen?
Yeah, but Azteca is they're doing maintenance. They're doing the routine maintenance. And as far as the projects go, we usually we usually handle the actual projects.
Okay.
And then just like we were saying with Mark, but it might be something that our staff cannot, because we don't have the time or the expertise or the equipment. So we will contract it out to another vendor besides Aztec, because Aztec is just doing basically routine maintenance.
Very good. Good job.
Yeah, Tom, this is the second of two one-year extensions.
Correct.
So after this year, we'll be going out
Correct.
for competitive bidding again.
Correct.
Okay. And I think you answered the question. I was just, when I looked at this initially, I was wondering where you come up with the exact dollar and cents for each of these. How many parks do we have? 47 parks.
That's their proposal. That's not, we don't put those numbers in. So when we actually go out for the request for proposal, this sheet is blank. And so we give it to all the proposers and say, hey, what South Shore Hills Park, this is what we want you to do, and this is how we want you to do it. How much you're going to charge us per month. So then the service provider fills those numbers in, and then we add it up. So with a remember, for request for proposal process, it's not just the number.
It's not just one big number, but.
What, no, excuse me, I'm saying what they add it up. And so it's, $50,000 a month. But with a request for proposal process, there might be someone, if proposer A says 50,000 a month, proposer B says $52,000 a month. But we interview, we check references, and maybe the $52,000 a month we think it's much more solid, that the services that they'll provide, and it's worth the extra $24,000 a year.
Okay. Could I assume that you go through a similar process? I was comparing the difference between this amendment and the one for custodial services, where it was just a flat dollar amount. But would they go through the same process for each individual site?
Yeah, you don't see, because the only reason you're seeing it tonight is because we amended each site. So we amended, but in the amendment is included in an updated Exhibit A, which is this.
Okay.
So in the other custodial contract, there is an Exhibit A, but we're not updating it. So it's in the original contract. So the Exhibit A stays the same, and we're just amending it to extend it one more year.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, Director Lang, again.
Last time, thank you. Just looking at number 13, Estella Park, and I think all of us know, how small that park is and so forth, and $121 a month to me is very reasonable. When we have our own landscape gardener or whatever come in, it's more than that, per month. So I think these are good rates, just based on that assumption. Thank you.
Okay, and on this side of the room, Director Nichols, do you have any comments?
Already got them answered. Thank you.
Okay, and Director Holt? Yes, I just wanted to comment. I really enjoyed this breakdown, because I don't think I saw that before. And I think when I was very first in office, I called Mr. Hare and said, is this the price per month or per year? And I think I just said, is that per year? And he goes, no, that's per
I
month.
remember, I actually do remember that. I was like, no. It's not 45 a month or a year. It's $600,000 a year.
So, and at the time I was thinking there, wow, that's a lot of money. But when you start looking at the amount of acreage we have in our parks and the equipment that they would have to have and the people that they're going to have and having this looked good at it. What I was going to say is I noticed the Stagecoach in one at $53. And they have more lawn there than I had in my yard. And we paid our gardener significantly more when we had a gardener. So if everything else, is kind of reasonable in that sense, I think it's very well worth the money. And of course, if our parks are not manicured and groomed, then they're just a bunch of weeds. So it's well worth it. And I'm assuming with us to do that ourselves with the amount of equipment and personnel that they have to do, this is probably a cheaper way to
Right.
do it.
Before my time, I don't know, Jim, if you were even here at the beginning too, but there was a mow crew 20 years ago. And so we would do a lot more of this in-house and rather than having an outside provider do it. But with that comes servicing, having the mowers, keeping them up and running, make sure your mow crew is fully staffed. Guy goes out sick or something like that, then what do? That you pulling another grounds worker and you start losing service by doing that. So it's sometimes better and easier and cheaper to offload that to an outside vendor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You do benefits, retirement, you're starting to get onto all of that, that can be expensive, and the equipment. I mean, just the equipment we're having, which I thought was interesting, that Mark was saying sometimes it's just better for him to rent the big equipment if we don't need it that much. But we would have to have some pretty big mowers to do those play fields,
Right,
wouldn't
right.
we?
Yeah.
And that's a lot to maintain.
A lot to maintain and right, like I said, and just the space of it too. So it's even,
Yeah.
I know you're kind of kidding, but serious with Mark and that, we look a lot, Mark said, I really wish I had this. And we take a look really hard about, okay, well, how many times are you going to use it? And where we're going to put it and what's the cost benefit of this? And then sometimes, oh, well, we use it 4 times a year to do that. Okay, but renting it is only, $6,000 a time. No, we're not going to buy a $500,000 piece of equipment just so you can use it 4 times. And then there's trucking it back and forth and the gas and the registration and what if it breaks down? And so just sometimes it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But same thing here with Azteca. Having them doing the mowing has made it our life a lot easier.
I can imagine. And also I wanted to just say, because at first when I was looking at these C1, C2, where are these? And then when I saw that you have that little link there, that's where I can find it.
Correct. Yes,
The link in
correct.
blue.
Yeah, that's the full contract. I apologize. I couldn't pick it up quick enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really nice to have, and I appreciate you putting that link there because I was sort of interested in what actually they're doing, and so appreciate that. So if there's no further comments, do I?
There he
Oh,
is.
there is.
You can always
Okay.
count on me.
Comments.
But it came up when listening to Tom. Do I recall that we're getting I don't know about special rate, but a fact that the city and the school district also uses?
No, that's for weed abatement.
Or weed
Yeah,
abatement?
weed abatement. No, we're this is, the landscaping services is separate. We each do our own. And then the school district actually, almost conversely, what I was just talking with Chair Cusworth is the school district does almost, I almost say all of their things in-house because theirs has to do with timing, that they have to have the grass cut at 10 a.m. at this field. It can't be 10:30. It can't be 10:15. So they're the ones who control that because then they go to this school for 11 o'clock and that school for noon because it's recess and all that. So the school district keeps a lot of it in-house because they just have to.
Thank you.
So I think now we're ready for a motion. Do I have a motion? I feel like I'm watching a tennis match all the time. Okay, Director Huffer.
I move approval of staff recommendation to authorize the general manager to enter into amendment 2, contract for landscape services with Aztec Landscape.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Director Lang. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, anybody opposed? Okay, then we will move on to 9B, which is our memorandum of understanding with the bicyclists. And then this will be you, Mr. Hare.
Yes, thanks, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. In 2017, we entered an MOU with Corva as a primary partner at Sapwe Trails Community Park for bike and trail related amenities. We extended it in 2019, extended it, and we still liked them. So we extended it again for 3 years from 2019 to 22. And in 22, we extended it to 2022, and we still like these guys. So we'd actually like to give them another 5 years, and they still like us. So I want to extend it to 2027. With that, I'm available for questions.
Does anybody have any questions on this item? Okay, no questions. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Director Holt.
I move that we authorize general manager to enter into amendment number 3 to memorandum of understanding with Concerned Off-Road Bicyclists Association.
Thank you. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Nichols. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and now we're going to come to our custodial services, which I really was very interested to see a breakdown on that. So I'm going to have to go to that little blue.
Correct. You have to go to the link, the
The-
link for
the
that
blue
one. That
link,
that will
if I
show
wanna
you.
get that.
Jim's gonna probably pull it up for you right now. He likes doing that.
Well, I can't do two things at the time. I can't look, talk in this microphone. Look at that.
Very similar to the contract with Azteca. This would be this last year of turns out to be a 6.5-year contract, only because with the history of this one, if the board can remember, and those who are on the board, we actually did award it to a different contractor 6 years ago. Unfortunately, they were unable to fulfill the services specified in the contract. And so we cut ties with Xanadu and hired Excellent Building Maintenance to continue for the balance of the contract. So they were on it for 4.5 years. We extended them for 1 year last year, and we're here before you to ask you to extend it for 1 more year. With that, I'm available for questions.
Yes, Director Lang.
More of a comment. I'm probably the only one of board members who was on board when in the early 90s, like 92, 93, that we did custodial service internally. And based on all the finagling with the funds and state and so forth, we had to, close that group
Yeah,
internally.
we still have 2 full-time and 1 part-time. So
Okay,
we do for the it's almost like the grounds. It's a good hybrid that when things have to get done now, we can get it done. But EBM in general, like when Director or Chair Cusworth, when you look up, they're taking care of like a lot of our community centers at night. So we don't have our staff there, but our staff will go and hit Dos Vientos Neighborhood Park, and they'll make their rounds to do that. That's sort of what our staff does, and we do that 7 days a week. But we still do have a two full-time and 1 part-time staff member.
now,
And we keep on adding bathrooms too, so they don't really like me, so.
and now that you mention that, I do remember some time ago, we recognized one of the custodians who did it at night and.
Yeah, that was Bob Barrett.
Yeah.
Bob Barrett, 35 years, and he actually, he came over on the Queen Mary as a little baby.
Wow.
That's the interesting fact about Bob.
Again, thank you for all the information. Appreciate it.
Yes, Director Hopper.
I know it's a real small dollar amount, but do we get any kind of price break on, because a facility like the teen center is closed down for a month or more?
Well, no, there's still, no, that's the short answer. No, they don't, because they'll still come in. Like with the teen center being down a month, we're not gonna, it's like I said,
Yeah, not
it's
worth it.
small, but we get it. We get the services in other ways. How's that sound?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good thinking.
Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for a point of clarification, Mr. Hare, regarding, says that the amendment is going to be extended to June of 2023 and all other terms of condition apply. Then it references the current monthly service at 21,000, et cetera. That dollar amount remains the same.
Correct. It's always been that amount. Yes.
So just out of curiosity, we just went through the question regarding Azteca, and I know they have a lot of, as you said, fuel expenses with equipment. But I would imagine this company has to go from place to place around town. Maybe they don't have lawnmowers and things like that. They're using lots of fuel, but there's no.
They're fine.
accommodation?
No, they're fine. So.
And would that have been something to negotiate
Yep,
if they
that would-
wanted to?
Yeah, right. The contract is the same template as for landscape services. So upon mutual agreement between the parties, we could increase the price.
Okay. Do they do lawns?
They'll clean them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Well, that just brings up a quick follow-up, because maybe they have some gasoline costs, but I would believe that personnel is by far their biggest cost. And I would have to think that they must have a fair number of minimum wage people that the company has been affected by as we've gone through
Right.
the 5-year
In
period.
general, in my 30 years of doing custodial contracts, I almost dare say, besides adding a facility or something, almost 100% of the price increases have to do with minimum wage increases. That's, then we'll give them whatever the appropriate amount of increase in cost, but it's labor cost.
Director Holt, do you have any comments?
No, thank
No? Well, again, as I said with the landscaping, if our buildings and facilities aren't clean, that doesn't go very well for us. And I remember one time, my husband and I were in Kauai at a beautiful park. And do you know what I remember the most about that park? It was probably the filthiest bathroom I've ever been in my life. And it was the only place that was around, but it was kind of like you wanted to tiptoe in and not touch anything. And you think, there I was in Hawaii. And what I remember about that place was that disgusting bathroom. So, I think we have to really praise the people that are keeping our buildings and our bathrooms and everything clean, because that really reflects on us.
Yeah, no, we get a lot of comments just from moms, because I was actually out at Del Prado yesterday and our staff was out there cleaning it, and a patron came up and said, "Hey, thanks guys," and between moms and kids and the SoCal Gas and Edison workers, they've got their routes, oh, this guy's coming at 9 o'clock to do his business at Dos Llanos neighborhood. And he's there, he's there at 9 o'clock Monday through Friday, but we get comments all the time about how well kept our bathrooms are, whether it's, and then even, our staff, EBM staff, and then our maintenance guys who oversee the contract. They do monthly walkthroughs. They work with the recreation staff to make sure that their needs are being met.
Now, I just have a quick question. There was a thing going on for a while, and it was even happening at my elementary school, where people were thrashing bathrooms with feces and a lot of other things. So I did go into one of our bathrooms and I was appalled because that happened in that bathroom. I'm sure the maintenance crew hadn't gotten there yet to see it. Are things like that happening
Yes.
anymore?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it happens. I'd say what I hear about, it's probably about once every 3 or 4 months, whether it's just someone that had like you said, throwing feces all over the place, or they go in and they kick off the soap dispenser off the wall, and then we put it up the next day, and then it's kicked off again the next day and the next day. So, we have our methods to try to deal with those situations. But yeah, unfortunately it does happen. And then even it was really surprising, but when COVID first hit at the beginning, the month when there was the toilet tissue scare, we were, because remember our toilet paper, it's locked up. It's that, you guys have to unlock to put the rolls in, and they were destroying the toilet tissue dispensers just to steal 2.5 rolls of toilet tissue. And we're like, really? And then even sometimes they're stealing the soap dispensers, just so they can get the little bags of soap. So that's why, if you remember, we actually we closed all our restrooms for a couple months, 3 months. I don't remember. It had almost nothing to do with COVID, as indirectly, but we were putting up porta potties because everyone was stealing everything that we had.
And then we got some calls from neighbors saying our mailman was complaining because he no longer has a restaurant.
Right, yeah. And they're right, exactly. So, it was unfortunate, but yeah, those things do happen. And it's like, wow, these people live among us that will take the time to do nasty things in the bathroom.
Yeah, I was kind of appalled, and I thought, well, my gosh, what if somebody's bringing their child in there? That would have been sad, but I'm glad that we're up on it and that we're having these regular cleanings between our
the staff is really
that's
good,
going
and
there.
we get a complaint, and that's why it's great to have the full-time staff. We're there right away, and whether it's our own custodial staff or if it's at a park where the grounds worker 2 is, he'll go and take care of it immediately.
Yeah, I'm glad you're only saying that it's happening that much. I'm glad it's not something weekly. At our school is completely subsided, but
Yeah.
so maybe it's kind of, going over. So, yes, and I had another thought, but now I can't remember it. So maybe in the middle of something else, I'll turn on my microphone and say it if I remember it. Yes, Director Holt.
Well, I'd like to move that we authorize general manager to enter into amendment number 6 to the contract for custodial services with Excellent Building Maintenance.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Director Nichols. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that motion passes. So item D. So this is probably Mr. Hare again.
Well, Mr. Frito. Jim,
Or
you gonna do?
Mr. Frito?
No, he's gonna do a little
Sorry.
intro.
Oh,
From
okay.
Jim.
When it was, we had talked about this. This was.
Okay,
You
you never answered my text, but okay. But as soon,
hurt by it.
yeah, I wasn't hurt by it. You were gonna talk about the letter.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
Chair Cusworth should have a letter that she just signed or was going to have in front of her.
Well,
to
I
sign.
did sign it and I returned it.
So now Aline has it. So the kickoff on this item is that right now we got somewhat late notice. So the governor's executive order about saving water is turned into, it was kind of a broad statewide order. And it had sort of an exemption for public parks. And so I think in his order, they call it functional turf versus non-functional. So basically it said, if you have functional turf, like sports field, parks, schools, you don't have to comply with this order, or this order does not apply to you. So we just got kind of wind that Metropolitan Water District, and therefore ultimately would be applied to Cayugas, is considering a more one-size-fits-all, simple to message method to save water this go around. If you remember last drought, we were dealing with percentage targets by water retailer, and everyone sort of had to do their fair share, and how did anyone know what anyone was doing? So I think they had some frustration with that. So they wanted to create a simpler process in their mind. So this is all just happening this week. We're just getting wind, but the idea is, or what we think the rule is going to be, is that everybody who has grass, doesn't matter what the grass is used for, doesn't matter anything, just anyone who has grass can only be watered one time per week for 8 minutes.
You're kidding.
Our parks will all be dead.
Yeah.
So will my lawns.
So we're kind of freaking out, and we've got a letter that Director Cusworth signed that's going to Metropolitan Water District and Cayugas. We're copying the city, Cal and Cal Water. But if that regulation goes into effect, and they have their board meetings next week, without having our ability to manage the water and save water, we can save water, manage water, and keep the grass alive. To do that, our parks won't withstand that limited amount of water. So we put together a letter. We plan to weigh in at their boards. So the more severe drought restrictions are coming. And then the funny part that we were saying is, last time we talked about drought, it rained. That board meeting night. And now that we're talking about drought again tonight, it's supposed to be drizzling when we get out of here. So, but we are going through an extremely dry period. What happens up north is frankly what affects us a lot more than anything is Lake Oroville, and whether the Feather River and the watershed up north is getting enough water. So because we're almost 100% on imported water. So that's kind of the lead in dramatic. Yes, we are now going into the drought, and it feels, it feels like there isn't as much forethought in going into the beginning of this drought as there was last time, or the lessons learned from last time aren't seemingly being applied and reused if this rule goes into effect. So we hope it doesn't. We're going to weigh in. Well, we've weighed in. Nellie's signed a letter. We're going to send it off. So yes.
Jim, have you had communications with the other general managers of Pleasant Valley and the manager of CME?
I called Dan as soon as I found out at lunch today, and so Dan now knows about it and what they do. So interestingly, Pleasant Valley might not be in as bad a spot, I think, because they don't have to rely as much on state imported water as we do. They get more groundwater in Pleasant Valley, but I think Rancho Simi is in the same boat we are, which is basically all imported water. So
Yeah, so we just want to weigh in that that is not a workable solution for us. And anyway, that's what
Where
we're,
they come up with
Yeah.
8 minutes as opposed to 7 minutes or 10 minutes or.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing, because what Jim was saying, that, we've been working with folks for 6 months, 8 months, and
Right, yeah.
like, hey, let's plan. Not with them, but let's our own internal planning. And remember when we presented that a month or two ago about what's the worst case scenario stuff, and we thought, hey, we're ready. We've got tiers and levels, and we're ready to go. And we've got some great ideas on how to implement whatever we need to implement. And then they go, yeah, 8 minutes. That was
right. We thought we were going to be working towards percentage
Right.
reduction targets.
Yeah.
Not
yeah,
just a random rule that
Yeah.
was.
Right,
uniform.
and part of the governor's executive order said, rec and parks exempt, and then at the end says, and work together to figure this out. And that's how the letter kind of ends, is like, yeah, we're more than happy to work together to try to figure this out, like we did last time. So we're more than happy to get to the table and say, what can we do to contribute? So with that, we do have amendment number 5 for a contract for drought response and irrigation improvement services with FS Contractors. Same thing. This was a 5-year contract with 2 optional 1-year extensions. So this would be the last year of that contract before we'd have to go out for a request for proposal again. In addition to extending it 1 year, over the years, depending upon projects and funding availability, we've bumped up the numbers. Before all the things we just talked about, we had $300,000 budgeted, so we wanted to bump it up from 200 to 300. There is a strong possibility in the next month or 2, 3 months or whatever, I might be back before the board, because if we do successfully have some mutual understanding with MWD and Kyagus about, oh, if you do this or you do that, we might come back to you and ask for additional funds for additional drought response, so we can meet those goals and objectives that are set forth between the 2 agencies. So it might be back in the future, but right now there's $300,000 in next year's budget. So we're asking to bump their annual limit from 200 to 300. With that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions? Yes, Director Nichols.
Yes. What do we get for $300,000?
We will be figuring that out. So those and what we are going to be doing, what we planned on to do versus what we are going to be doing might change depending upon the proposed water restrictions. What we traditionally have been doing with this contract, whether it's putting in the fertigation tanks that we have, upgrading irrigation, drought tolerant planting, irrigation improvements on a particular place, but sometimes it might be putting in some hardscape, eliminating some little areas of turf. So it's a variety of different things that will help us to keep our water usage and water consumption down. If there's something different that we agree upon with, and that we determine is again beneficial for everybody, it might be more wide scale turf reduction. Remember before, like we talked about the tier 1, or tier 1, we talked about cut a little bit here, cut a little bit there. We thought about approximately 11 acres of turf reduction. We might have associated amenity improvements with a turf reduction, meaning like a fitness path around, like remember we talked about with like tier 2, that was taking the park, instead of being at this big, you go in a row all the way around, so the park becomes this big. But in order to maybe offset that, you put a fitness path around there. So you're like, hey, you lost some turf, but you got a fitness path. And that does cost some money to put in the fitness path. So it depends.
Okay, so I guess that I was thinking of is 200,000 compared to 300,000.
Oh, sorry.
Was it? No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Are we getting more widgets, or are we just accelerating the program that we're trying to
both.
accomplish? Just say, hey, let's try and get this done a little bit quicker, get a little bit more done that we've been doing, just do a little faster.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay.
Both, because we're continuously, we talk all the time with staff about and like we just started doing those, like the fertigation tanks, we have a separate line item for that because it's a piece of equipment and accounting wants to like account for it. But then the actual installation, and there's some associated boxes and hookups, and it costs a good amount of money to actually put in. So that's part of the drought response projects that we do. So it might be that, but so it's the widgets are bought somewhere else, but then the installation is here. It's different types of controllers, or there's all sorts of different things that the guys come up with that they see that's out there. So that go with this.
And then while it's not necessarily in line with this item, but more a reflection of the information that the general manager just shared, having had you present to us your drought plan, various levels, when you get to something like this, it says, oh, yes, you get to water your lawn, once every week for 8 minutes. Does that make you think, oh, okay, let's skip step 1 and 2, and we're going right to step 3 right now, and we need to start implementing this?
No, because I had those conversations with them and saying that, it doesn't matter what we do. If you make us do once a week at 8 minutes, every single piece of grass is going to die. It's going to happen. So why kill everything when it would be smarter to kill this corner here and that little bit there, or do this, or we like go to the tier 2 at do some sort of hybrid. And they were like, well, no, it's just easier. Once a week, 8 minutes. I go, but you're going to kill everything. And, and we talked about the safety and the turf quality for our sports organizations and just for fun, people being out there doing family friendly stuff. But I go, no, there's got to be some, let's work together. Give me a percentage. Give me something.
Yeah. I mean, I just was thinking in my head, just like as we've discussed, if you've got however much water that would be, if you were to cut to that much and say, okay, if we watered everything for 8 minutes, how much water would the district use?
Oh, yeah.
And whatever that calculation was, and said, okay, instead of watering all of our parks for 8 minutes,
I know what you're saying.
we're going to water our play fields for 30 minutes and forget everything else. And at the end of the month, we've used the exact same amount of water.
Yeah, right. That could be on the table too. So, but I'd like to discuss that with him. They were at my initial discussions were just what you said is no, it's one station, 8 minutes a week. That's it. There was no like horse trading, none of that. He goes, yeah, you guys can do it. I go, yeah, but we're going to lose it. We're going to lose everything. Okay. So,
all right.
That's why that's the, I don't know if only Nellie saw the letter, but yeah, you'll be copied on the letter, but it's a fairly strong letter saying, and then even one of the things that we did in like crunching the numbers, it's kind of interesting. So when it hit the fan last time and we were ahead of the game. So the governor's executive order came out April 1st, 2015, and we started taking it near the beginning of in July of 2014. So we were, almost 10 months ahead of the game, of when the state said, you got to do this, right? So we knew it was coming. So if you compare the last 7 years, and if you even include this current fiscal year and what we're projecting from 13-14 to now, we averaged 32% reduction as compared to 13-14 because we did our job. Yeah, and we did our share and we were a leader. Our worst year, 27%, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Yeah, our worst year was 27% and our best year was 41%. And we're tracking this year to be 33%. So like we took our haircut and we've sustained. That's what I'm trying to tell them. Like it was just not like a one-time thing and then we bump back up. No, we've been very focused and sustained. And I think that 27 to 41 is mostly dependent upon rain, but we've taken a severe haircut and we've stuck with it. And we want to continue sticking with it.
Well, appreciate that. I know it's we're kind of pontificate a little bit, not quite knowing where things are going, but when the gauntlet's thrown down, you have to respond. And just a thought came to mind, and just leave this with the general manager. I know at least Director Lang and I have gone on the water tours with MWD. And I would not say that I am friends or even acquaintances with Steve Blois, but he's on the board and he's local. And just like, if it's to that point, I would be happy to meet face to face with him and say, hey,
Please, it's at that point. Please, yes.
if that's something that you could arrange, I'd be happy to remind him that we took that tour and we took advantage of that. And this is what we've done. And to have that face-to-face conversation, got to take advantage of whatever relationships we can at this point.
Director Lang.
Yes, in the information you received so far, have they talked about penalties if we exceed?
Yeah, the penalty, not to us, not to the end user, but it's a penalty to like Cal Am or the city or Cal Water. That's what and it's $2,000 a month per acre foot. And the city calculated theirs if they did not meet their goals. They said at worst case scenario would be about $1.6 million a month to the city in penalties. Now, the city, they can impose fines on us. Cal Am, Cal Water, and city can say the same thing to us. You're passing on if you don't comply, because it makes us don't comply. So I've got to pay a fine. So you have to pay a fine too. So that's going to be probably coming. And this is, and by the way, this is the 8 minutes. They're considering it next week, but they're proposing effective June 1st.
A lot of lead time.
Yeah, right.
Any other comments? All right, so back to what we're actually talking about is authorizing the general manager to have a contract for the drought response. So do we have a motion for that we want to continue with this? Yes, Director Holt?
I so move, actually, I guess I should read it. I move we approve amendment 5 to contract for drought responsive irrigation improvement services at various park facilities.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Director Huffer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
And pray for rain.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Motion
please.
passes.
Well, Chuck, you have a
Alrighty.
dance, right?
So now we're going to E. And this probably goes right along with our new retiree, Bill Palermo, I'm assuming. So will this be Melissa?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cusworth and directors. So this is a new job description for a kind of a generic analyst description, much more general, with the idea that this analyst could be assigned to any division when the need arises. The staff report's pretty short and sweet, and we have the attached description and the letter from Ralph Anderson and Associates. Actually adding a new position would be incorporated into the budget that will bring then any new positions to you when we come on June 2nd, I believe, is when we'll review that. And then any additions beyond that could be brought when the time arises. So with that, I'm available for questions, but just a general analyst job description.
Okay, any questions on this? Yes, Director Huffer.
So this is purely adding a job description. You're not authorizing any additional funds, not creating a new job itself, just
the
have it ready to
description.
go if and when it's needed.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so I had a question. So we do have an opening for this now?
No, this is just authorizing the description, and then we'll be bringing, if we need it, then it's available for us to assign a budget and allow for us to go recruit for it.
Okay, and so we have, it seemed to me that we had two job descriptions here. It seemed like there was the one It was a job description, and then we had the summary, the other job description from the Ralph Anderson and Associates. Or
So
is this-
the Ralph Anderson is a letter commenting on the proposed job description. They're the ones that did our class and comp, so they were determining whether or not it was an appropriate placement within our job classification
Okay.
scale. So it's a comment letter on the one job
All right, so
description.
that's not really the descriptions. This is the description.
Correct.
Okay, I just saw the two things that I wasn't.
Sure.
And I was really glad that you added in it the ability to read. Which, which justifies my profession as a first grade teacher. Thank a first grade teacher if you know how to read. Okay, do we have any other comments? Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Smith, just a kind of a, I guess, a broader question. While I understand this is a job description, often in agencies, there are series of job descriptions where you have an associate, an assistant, an analyst, and a senior, and a senior one, senior two, you know, obviously depending on the size of the organization that expands. Did you contemplate something like that as well for this type of role, since this, I presume, is kind of trying to bridge the various divisions, you know, where someone, maybe at one point you need I'll just say a lower level or entry level analyst as opposed to someone else says, no, I need an experienced analyst. You know, how do you accommodate those needs when you only have one analyst position?
So we have looked at the similar agencies that have a setup like that. I believe the city has a kind of setup like that. And then also MRCA has arranged like that. For us, we had gone from a very specific, we have a very, very specific analyst description. And so this was more just, let's try to get a kind of broad one. I think if we wanted to do steps like that, we would probably need to have a more specific kind of route and expertise assigned to it. So we wanted to have the more general ones so we could have it assigned to division as necessary, but we didn't feel the need for multiple positions at this time.
Okay, yeah, just obviously when you go through that process, you know, you think of those things, you
Sure.
want to plan ahead as best you can, but when you got to start somewhere. So I
Yeah.
understand that too. So thank you.
All right, do we have a motion to approve? Yes, Director Huffer.
I'll move approval of staff recommendation to approve a new job description for analyst range 55.
And do we-
that.
Thank you, Director Lang. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And now moving on to our lease agreement with the Reign of Terror Haunted House. And so,
Thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. I'll take that one.
okay, thank
My
you.
one hurrah for the night. So we are bringing this in front of you. You guys have seen this before. It's an annual thing that we do. As you know, you're all familiar with Reign of Terror. In 1999, Bruce was doing it in his home, had about 40 people. And then in 2008, CRPD stepped in and we started offering or helping him out with space here at Hillcrest. In 2009, it moved into a vacant store space at the Thousand Oaks Marketplace, which is the Jan's Mall. The Jan's Mall worked a partnership with us, and we also received a donation from Reign of Terror at that time for our contributions and partnerships. The Thousand Oaks Marketplace did not charge any rent at that time. And over the years, we have received over about $385,000 in donations from Reign of Terror. In 2020, they had to relocate down to the lower level, which you guys got to see when we received our donation check this year. So they're on the lower level now. And the other thing in 2020 that happened was Reign of Terror had to start paying a rent of $70,000. It was increased the following year to $75,000. This year, the agreement is staying at $75,000. The run dates start in April. In fact, it starts this weekend and goes until December of 2022. The lease has been gone over, and really there's no major changes in this lease. It is just dates pretty much that are changed on it. And so what I'm asking or recommending is that the general manager be allowed to sign the temporary lease with the Reign of Terror and the Thousand Oaks Marketplace to continue our partnership with them in this current year. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Director Huffer.
Yeah, I for some reason didn't see it when I went through this before, but I would just like to suggest a change in the language of the recommendation. The recommendation says to sign and execute a temporary lease agreement between Thousand Oaks Marketplace and Reign of Terror. We can't authorize a lease agreement between two other entities. I believe what we're asking for is that we want a lease agreement with these two entities.
Thank you. We can
I
make
I
that
would
change.
change between to
Mhm.
with.
To what?
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
What word did you say? for between?
Change between. the
Between will
word
be
Take out
between
between and replace it with.
Oh,
with.
with.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Yes, Dr. Nichols.
This is more of a technicality, but I'm just wondering why the term temporary has to be there. I mean, a lease agreement, you have a lease and it's from beginning date to an ending date. What's the purpose of having it as a temporary lease?
I actually don't have the answer to that. The marketplace is the one who gives us the lease. So they're the ones that have drawn it up. So if that's a problem, then
So
Yeah, I think, I don't really know. I think, yeah, this is the template comes from the Gent Marketplace. And I think because they pretty much are only giving him 1 year shots at a
Short
time.
term,
And
yeah.
so I think they must think of 1 year as temporary in the commercial retail parlance. So.
This is
Yeah.
even less than a year.
it's
Yeah.
not even a full year and
Yeah,
it's
so-
agreed upon every year. I believe that we have space until they find permanent occupancy for their space. So they're always looking at short term
Okay, yeah, I
agreements.
obviously, I'm sure the legal beagles at their side said, oh, we need to have that word in there. And I just was wondering if we knew why, but it's probably has something to do with, like I said, the typical way that leases are done in a retail shop, I imagine. So, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Director Lang.
yes, just to piggyback on the comment that Rochelle made during the transition from their house to here for 1 year. In this very room was where, all the haunted house displays were set up. So you can imagine how small and intricate it was at that time and what it is now. But yeah, this is where it was, where we're sitting.
And we're very grateful for the contribution that they give to our programs that help
For
us throughout
sure.
the
Mhm.
year. So
Any other comments? So I have a question, and you probably explained this. I never thought of the Jan's Marketplace as the Thousand Oaks Marketplace. Is that their legal name?
No,
It's actually-
think of it's Jan's Market.
I always think of it as the Jan's Marketplace, but it's actually the Thousand Oaks Marketplace.
yeah, it's the Thousand Oaks Marketplace LP CO Newmark Merrill Companies.
Oh, okay.
That must be a change.
That's just like we always refer to Canal Community Park as over in Hendricks Park. So
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
It's not its real name.
all right.
it's the DBA.
All right, do we have a motion to recommend? Director Lang.
Yes, it'd be my pleasure to authorize the general manager to sign and execute a temporary lease agreement with, as modified, Thousand Oaks Marketplace LP and Reign of Terror Haunted House.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Huffer. All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So now we're to the confirmation of an urgent action. So I think this is Mr. Hare again.
Yes, thanks, Chair Custer, members of the board. You did receive an email regarding this, but we'll kind of go over what happened and what we're doing and why we're doing it. If you remember, I mentioned the last board meeting, in the Park Division report, we had given a matching grant to the Canal Valley Historical Society for miscellaneous work, and part of it, they investigated doing the deck work in the back. And they said, hey, I got a contractor here. And by the way, our staff member who was overseeing the project said, oh, we were going to do that anyway in a few years. Tell you what, we'll pay for it because we already contemplated to do it. in a few years. And by the way, it's part of our responsibility to maintain the structure. So all was great. We did a $21,000 amendment to the grant agreement, all happening. And then they actually took off the deck and it was a nightmare. I think saw the pictures that are out there. And a lot of damage that was out there. Between when it all totaled up was about another just under $60,000 worth of work needed to be done to repair it. And due to the essential services that we feel that the Stagecoach Museum and the Canal Valley Historical Society provides with their programming, their events, the weddings that they have, that we thought it was, and they had, since they have a contractor, the contractor was there on site. Park staff reviewed and said, yes, that's a good price. It's a good scope of work. Let's keep this guy going. Part of what the purchasing policy allows us to do is to, in urgent circumstances, general manager has authority to authorize the work to be done. And then at the next board meeting to confirm that it was an urgent action and the issuance of amendment number 2. So that's where we are with it. We didn't get any deduction in price. Doug was out there doing a little work, I think, or maybe just taking pictures. I don't know. Yeah, probably just taking pictures. But yeah, so the contractor's out there. He's doing really well. Historical staffs and volunteers are happy with what's going on. Our staff's really happy with what's going on. And so we're here tonight just so that the 3 recommendations are that you find that it was an urgent action, you confirm general manager's execution of amendment 2, and then because the price did go up so much from 20 to 80, is actually transferring some money from the general fund operating reserve to this project. With that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions? Yes, Director Huffman.
Was this rear deck built at the same time the museum, the Stagecoach Inn was built?
Yeah, rebuilt. Yeah,
Right, rebuilt. I know the
yeah.
thing burned down, they rebuilt
Right,
everything.
correct. Rebuild. Yeah, I believe this was original. This was part of the original deck. We redid the front deck. I don't know if you remember, but we did it since I've been here. We've redone the front deck, but then the rear deck was original.
Okay, the reason I asked the question, I'm not a contractor, I don't know the first thing about building, but if this was built at the same time and unbeknownst, because you couldn't see it, it was rotting away and things were done improperly, is it possible that the same problems exist under the building itself?
Of course, but I would say the gut reaction is no, because this is the exposed part of being a deck. That there's a lot more weather that happens to structures like a deck.
Yeah, but I know in some of the pictures or something you were talking about, it wasn't just the dry rot and the explosion and everything else, but I recall you telling us that there were some attachments that were done improperly, and I don't know if those attachments were disaster or just maybe it could have been done a little better. But
it could have been done a little bit better. And I mean, if one of these days without ripping up the foundation and seeing what's underneath, that's the way you could tell. But we've been going pretty strong for 40, 50 years. So hopefully,
I recall what was found when we lifted up the McCrae bunkhouse and looked underneath there, and that was sort of horrifying. So.
Yep. But remember that's 1898. So versus
I guess if this lasts for another 50 or 60 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Director Lang.
Yes, I totally support the action that the staff took. And as we know, this has to be done, then might as well do it now and do it right. But many of us remember the flooding issues that the Stagecoach Inn Museum has had over the years, and flooding in the basement and so forth. So I'm sure there are a lot of other issues other than, the flooding of the basement that were taking place, as far as the structure is concerned and so forth. So I'm glad that we're doing it now, and hopefully, this will take us through many more years in the future.
Yeah, we'll all be gone. like literally gone. Yes. By the time this needs to be repaired again.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I will disclose that I did go out to the site to personally observe it on Tuesday. I can't remember which day it was, Monday. I'd asked Tom for a floor plan. I figured being the top-notch administrator that is, he's probably got a spreadsheet with this whole thing all outlined, but lo and behold, he didn't have anything. He sent me a couple of maps. So I said, oh, let's go out there and take a look at it. I had been out to that side of it for a while. And actually saw the work and talked to the contractor, very, very helpful, very open, kind of shared what was going on, what they had observed. And also I was impressed with the price of lumber and plywood these days, which is why things are so darn expensive. But I will say that seeing the way that it was done and the way that it's continued to be improved, I think it'll be a great asset there, and it'll probably last longer than the museum now, I would imagine. But I do appreciate the explanation as to what was observed, how it was done. And I know that with the capital plan and everything that you put into that, it's maybe not quite like playing chess, but kind of like playing chess and just moving things around. So I have that confidence that I know that if that is done, then something has to be moved somewhere else. So I appreciate that. And I know maybe it's not going to be all spelled out tonight, but as we go through that process, that, those things are all pulled together. So that's why I had that sense of relief or comfort even to say, yeah, it's $80,000 that wasn't expected. However, I know at the back end, somehow we're going to see how this all fits together. In the meantime, the project keeps going. I mean, you certainly don't want to hold a contractor at bay for a couple of weeks or a couple of months until the board gets convinced all these things are done. So that's why I wanted to kind of also emphasize just the process that's being used, not so much just this project itself. But I know we do have those processes in place, and they work well, and I appreciate the effort that you take to inform us even by email when it's necessary to those urgent types of actions. Thankfully, it wasn't an emergency. Urgent is a little bit different, but appreciate the extra effort, and thank you for taking the time to explain all that to us.
Sure, thank you. You're welcome. And then just the last time was the water heater at Thousand Oaks Center. So I was trying to figure out when I couldn't remember off the top of my head, so it was 2013 was the last time we took an urgent action.
Great. Any other comments? Well, I think the Stagecoach Inn with the grant program was planning to do some cosmetic work on that deck. And I think they were all quite surprised when those boards came up and they saw it. And as Director Nichols said, it's better to do something now before there is an accident, before somebody gets hurt. So it's probably a good idea that was discovered. So thank you. If there's no other comments, do we have a motion to do? Well, it says we have to have a recommendation, but it's already been done. Are we just approving what's been done? How do we?
Yeah, I'll
do
take
this?
that. I'll just,
Okay, please.
I will just make a motion that we follow staff recommendations 1, 2, and 3 regarding find that the damage to the rear deck was an urgent item. Confirm the general manager's execution of the amendment to the contract, and then transfer the $80,000 from the general fund.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. So let's move on where I want to say I was kind of disappointed. We didn't get a lot of pictures from the park program this time. Was one of your staff sick or?
I'm sorry, from recreation?
Yeah, from recreation. That's what I meant. We
Yes,
usually
I
get
now
all
know
these
where all
nice
James's
pictures.
files are.
What?
I now know where all James's files are.
Oh.
Yeah, he unfortunately had a family illness, so he's been out. So.
Well, that just shows how just one employee missing kind of changes the whole meeting. I was thinking, well, what's happened with rec this
And it
month?
is in your folder.
Oh, it's in the
It
folder.
is in your
I didn't
folder
check
now,
my folder
yes.
yet. Okay. All right, well, tell James I missed him.
You got it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I did have a question on item 10.
Yes, please.
I noticed on the 10A, the budget performance report, personnel percentage expenditure was like only 45%. It seems a little bit low considering the revenue was at 65%. I just wondering, are we on par? Was that Is there some particular reason why that seems to be lower percentage than our other expenditures?
I expect, and I will double check it and get back to you, but I expect it's because we budgeted to have higher expenses for potential COVID leaves or things like that, or unemployment and something like that. So I would expect that those have just come under budget. But I'll double check and get back to you.
Thank you. That
Do
was
we
it.
have any other comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, then moving on to our department reports, Parks Division report.
Thanks, Chair Custer, with the members of the board. Just two items of what's going to be fun stuff. This Saturday at 9 o'clock, we have the playground ribbon cutting at Thousand Oaks Community Park. Should be lots of fun. And Nellie, I'll give you your script before we leave tonight. And on the 30th, we have the open house at Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center. That's at 9 o'clock, a pancake breakfast, and then a ceremony over at Area 1, which is the new amphitheater that we did with the grant we got from the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. With that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to the Recreation Division.
Thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. Couple things tonight. Thank you for signing up for the chili cook-off. If you'd like to pick up additional hours, there are hours available still, so just let me know. But I did get everybody on there now after emails today, so thank you. Like we talked about, your recreation highlights are in your file folder today, so I hope you enjoy the pictures and all the fun things that are coming up and that staff reported out on. And next time you'll get it in your packets as we've done before. You also have in your file folder a update on our last survey that we did for winter programs. And we actually had a whopping 9% of people respond, which is awesome. Up, I think last time we were at about 3 or 4%. So we had a lot more people take some time and respond. I did want to just draw attention to we're over our 90% and agreed and strongly agreed in all the questions that had to do about our instructors. And then on the last positive impact on the lowered blood pressure, lost significant amount of weight and increased strength and endurance. I just thought it was interesting. I was like, what class is that? And so that was actually a lap swimming. So that was cool. A couple of other things, just so you know, the Jan's Mall Thousand Oaks Marketplace is also partnering with us this summer as the teen center, is closed. We have looked for space and ways to continue programming to teach our teens. And so we are currently running some classes out of a vacant space at the Jan's Mall. And we will also be running some therapeutic programs this summer out of the Jan's Mall. So we were really appreciative of that partnership with them. The GAC will be closed on Saturdays, starting at the end of May and into June during construction. They're going to be working, pardon?
I didn't hear what.
The Global Center. I'm sorry, I called it the GAC. The Global Center will be closed on Saturdays. They're usually only open from like 12 to 4, and they usually do a bingo in there, and that won't be taking place because the floor will be being redone. And so really the only thing open would be the pool hall and the computer room, and not very many people would be coming in. So we've said that we're going to go ahead and close for that month while they do the flooring. Oh, and you're going to have going around, I think Aline actually already sent it to you guys, the sign up for the music festival is going to be different this year. The way they had to plan it before, with everything going on. It's going to be at the high schools and maybe at one of the middle schools at Redwood. And so it'll be basically, you would come, they'll announce that you're there. They'll announce any of the dignitaries that come, and then you'll be able to wave but it won't be a speaking engagement. And then you'll have the option of either sitting on the field or with close up, or getting 2 tickets and sitting in the stands. So it's really up to you guys, but we are taking signups. You can sign up for as many as you'd like to sign up for, but make sure you do get that written down, because we're going to be letting Brianne, who was here this evening, know what you're going to be doing, and she'll be emailing you details on where to park and who you'll be meeting with and stuff like that.
May I just say, I wrote down a few dates, but without checking on my calendar and seeing what's going on, I can't confirm it, but
Sure.
so that I call you and.
Yep,
and-
let Aline know or shoot me an
Oh,
email
okay.
that you're confirming them and that'll be
Okay.
fine. And with that, I am available for questions.
I'll give that back to
Director
you.
Lang.
Yes, Rochelle, is this going to be the format for the future also?
I don't believe so. I believe they'll end up back at the City Arts Plaza. I think that's where they like it unless they evaluate it and the teachers and the schools really like it. I'm not sure. So I can't promise, but I don't think so.
Okay, and one other question, if I understood you correctly, we make the decision as to where we want to sit, and then if we want to sit in a particular place, then we have to pay?
No, you
No,
don't have to
that's-
pay. If you're just gonna like come in, be presented and you want to leave, then you probably don't want to sit on the field where all the presentation's going to be going on. You might want to sit in the stands. So they're giving tickets out to people because people do pay, but you will be a guest.
Okay, but we can be a guest down on the field if we want to stay through the
Yes.
whole performance.
One person.
One person.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you wanted to bring your spouse, they could sit up in the stands or you can sit with them in the stands. Yeah.
Any other comments? No? Okay, then moving on to management services, Mrs. Smith.
So I will keep this brief, but I have an answer for you, Director Nichols. So yes, it's because we over budgeted for the unemployment insurance due to COVID and some of the working comp. But the other thing that is in there is also retiree payments. We had anticipated some more retiree payments. Some people's plans might have changed, but also some people took some lump sum options before the fiscal year started. So just some extra budget in there for retiree payments that didn't happen.
Thank you. Next time a little quicker would be appreciated.
yeah,
I'll
right.
work on that.
Thank you
With
very
that, I'm
much.
available for any other questions.
Okay, moving on to our general manager's report.
Just very briefly, I would add to April 23rd, this Saturday, that it is Rams Day in Seattle as well. So I know
right.
Rochelle and her staff will have a booth there. So we have a CRPD booth, but we don't have any kind of special staff access. It's open and free to the public, but there's no reserved parking or anything like that.
Where's that?
Timing?
It's Civic Arts Plaza, I think from 10 to 3, I think, or something like that. I don't have the exact hours, but the Lombardi Trophy will be here for 4 hours. I guess.
Noon to 3, I think are the hours.
Noon to 3.
Oh, I didn't see that. I saw that. there was something.
like 9 to 3, so I don't know when that.
The actual public event, I kind of remember 10 to 2 or 11 to 3, something like that. But I think it was, I thought it was a 4-hour window.
Tomorrow we get the acorn, so.
Yeah, hopefully they'll have the hours there.
Well, the flyer I got said 12 to 4.
12 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get a flyer. It came in the mail.
So that's happening. So it might be a neat, busy day. Just as a reminder, the Gratitude Circle is coming up. So it's only 10 days away. It's on May 2nd, Monday, May 2nd. Spoke with Cecilia today. She was not sure she could make it, and she is actually
That's
going
right.
to be here now. So she's planning to be
Oh,
here.
great.
So if you remember, it's Mary Power, Wyatt, and Cecilia. So I think we'll have all three here, which is great. And that's usually at 5:30. It's a Monday. So that should be fun. As a reminder, we have a CARPD conference coming up as well as CSDA Ledge Days. So that week is kind of shot. And on May 19th, our normal third Thursday, we are going to cancel that board meeting. It's already, I think, on the website showing it's canceled. So we do have our next meeting is 2 weeks from now on May 5th, but so we'll have a meeting and then we'll have a little break there because of the CARPD conference. The community conversations are ongoing. I know everybody's been, not everybody, but quite a few staff people have been out doing those little talks and presentations, and we continue to get more and more survey responses back, which is neat. And I don't want to steal any ad hoc revenue committee member thunder from the fact that we did have a meeting, but just very quickly, we do anticipate having a survey to go out in May that would help inform the board what the voter sentiment might be regarding the possibility of the revenue measure and the services that CRPD provides and that kind of thing. So with that, I'm available for questions.
May I add a couple? So the event is from 12 to 4 and there's free parking in the parking structure. And then just as a reminder to you bringing up the community conversations, we are going to be at the Thousand Oaks Mall on the 27th. And we're going to be, the Oaks Mall. Sorry, not to confuse us all. And we'll be there, staff will be there at 10. And I believe we're going to have a presentation at 10:30. And then we're going to have a presentation at 5:30. And so that is going to be on social media, and the Oaks Mall is going to be sending out emails and helping us promote it and stuff. And people can register for it so that we know how many are going to be coming. We'll probably have about enough space for 50 people at each talk. And then we'll have another talk in towards the end of May,
What date is that?
the 27th.
That's the first one.
That's the first, yeah,
And the,
27th at 5:30 at the Oaks Mall.
yes.
And where in the?
It's going to be in the old Disneyland store down by the food court. Double checking. Yes, the 27th. April 27th, which is a Wednesday. There will be a 10 o'clock. The presentation will start at 10:30, and then there will be a 5 o'clock, and the presentation will start at 5:30. The other date, if you want to put it in your calendar, since you guys are all writing it down, is May 21st. It's a Saturday, and it's the same times, 10 and 5.
Best presenter will be at the.
I think I saw that somewhere. Is it in-
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm in the evening.
I saw it somewhere.
Thank you,
Because I
sorry.
remember thinking, I didn't know anything about that. It's somewhere. Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions or calendar needs? All righty. So now we'll go to our director report. So why don't we start over here with Director Nichols?
Thank you. This was a look at my calendar to see where I've been in the last 2 weeks since our last board meeting. I did attend the Arbor Earth Day for an hour. Tonight. It was a lot of fun, seeing all the different activities there. But also today at the luncheon for the volunteers. Those are my official activities for the 2 weeks.
Okay, great. Director Holt.
Well, I was there today also for the volunteers that they honored. The senior center, the Global Senior Center honored. And I didn't get a chance. It's been a busy day. I should have looked and seen what else I might have done in the last 2 weeks, but I don't remember. Was
All
I
right,
at Arbor Day?
Director Huffer.
Yeah, there were several things. I know ran into at least one other director at the egg hunt. I saw the number 3,500 people. I can believe because for a while that line was way past the main building there. And I guess it's a good thing you were recycling eggs. If you were giving eggs out, you would have run out long beforehand.
Yep.
But it was so fun. I still think it'd be a great idea for those of us who don't have kids or grandkids anywhere close by. If you could work out some kind of rent-a-kid thing where we could have a little 2 or 3-year-old that we could take Easter egg hunting. 'Cause I watch all those little kids running around. I thought, oh, I wish I could do that. But it was really neat. And I did get a chance to do the flashlight hike thing. And that was really the amount of work that goes to it. I mean, it was, almost as elaborate as the Halloween hike. So kudos to your staff that put all of that together. I think all of us were at one time or another at the Arbor Earth Day, our tent, which was hidden right below the great big huge giant blow up trash truck, but we still had quite a few people walking by, and that was it's nice to get feedback from people that, oh, you were the park district and I like this park or I like that program or something like that. So, and I'm blocking on the young man's name, but young guy from the teen center who's in charge of the bicycle.
Luis,
Luis.
Luis?
Oh, was Luis? Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be Luis. He's in outreach. Dan, Luis, or
Outreach.
Crystal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So, between people coming by, I had a chance to get to know him a little bit, and he's a neat guy. And two different naming committees. Actually, they were both on the same day. Casca had Councilmember Bill De La Pena and I were on the trail naming committee, and there were two trails they wanted to rename and a third trail that needed a name. And then that afternoon, we had a park district naming committee. And then right after that, or before that, I can't remember what the order was, where we had the revenue measure subcommittee meeting and had a pretty lengthy presentation from the company that's putting together the survey. And as Jim said, it'll be coming out, the survey is going out, what, next week?
Should be the first week of May, yeah. whenever somebody-
So it's coming up real soon. And we'll just sort of keep our fingers crossed to see how the results come back on that with everything else going on. And then, I was at the park today too for the CVPA luncheon for all the volunteers, and nice event. Oh, and taxes are done. Yay!
Yeah.
They don't have the final numbers, but somewhere in excess of 2,000 returns were done during the February 1st through April 15th period. So if that's not the most that we've ever done, we're very close to it. So
Well, congratulations. You have a whole new life ahead of you.
I
until next
have a
year.
life period.
Yeah.
So
Okay, Director Lang.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I too attended today's volunteer appreciation gathering, Earth Day. And I too wanted to compliment the two staff people that were in the tent. They were really informative and just made the whole event upbeat, great personalities and so forth. So they are to be complimented. I did send an email to everybody because I wanted them to have some of the dates on that VCARS, the Ventura County Amateur Radio Association at the Reagan Library on the 25th of June, and I'll be out of town. But I really, over the many years, probably going on 20 years, have supported this group because of the role that they play in our community. We don't see it because we don't have, fortunately, don't have that many emergencies, but when we have had them, and when I was aware of them, I saw what they were doing and the efforts that they, they're all volunteers, as many of us, but it is a great organization, and they're very much into ham radio operating and assisting the community in emergencies. And through my communications, I heard that Chair, her father, I'm talking about Chair Nellie, that her father was a ham operator, so she can relate to the dedication that these guys have. So as I mentioned, I would like to know if anybody is available on the 25th of June to go up to the Reagan Library and sign in as an elected official. This is a national event, and they get extra credit if they have elected officials show up. So they're in competition with ham organization, radio operations all over the country. And they're very open to allowing visitors, specifically elected officials, to sit down behind equipment and communicate across the country, et cetera. So it's anybody have, because they want your names, so they'll put it in their newsletter and so forth, meet this elected official. So anybody right tonight have any availability for the 25th?
George, I apologize. I saw you today and I meant to tell you, I can't be there. I have another commitment
Understand,
that day.
no
so,
problem, but thank you.
And I also went to Arbor Day.
You're out of town. Nellie, how about you?
No, as I said, I'm out of town. We're in Alaska.
I'm gonna be in Hawaii, Kauai. Yeah.
Well, don't go to that livestock trade.
I'll stay away from it. Okay, so will you be able to make?
I need to check and I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, again, I've just kind of adopted, I've received awards, recognition from the group, as has Jackie Irwin, Dennis Gillette over the years. And, it's something that, when we need them, they're there. So I just want to do my part in thanking them because they don't get much, recognition. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
That concludes my report.
So I was also at Arbor Day and a few ad hoc committee meetings, and just briefly, yes, I grew up with a ham radio and a Radio Shack and a huge antenna at our house. And this is before cell phones, and my dad coming in saying, I just talked to Australia, I just talked to Africa. My mom was completely uninterested, but that was as he built these things. I mean, it was really pretty cool. So I will be there next year if I'm in town, absolutely. It is pretty fun to go on them. Now it's not a big deal because we all have cell phones. So what's the big deal? But back in the 60s, it was a big deal. And again, what he's saying is if everything else goes down, the ham radio waves go on a different wavelength, so they can be used as an emergency network. So it's very valuable for these people that still do it, even though it's not that interesting anymore as it used to be. Okay, so we'll go on to.
You had nothing to report?
That was my report. I said I went to some ad hoc meetings and I went to Arbor Day, and my dad
I
was a
heard
ham
that.
radio operator.
I heard that. I was listening to you, Nellie.
Thank you.
But I
I'm glad
also,
somebody was listening to me. Yes, Director. Lynn.
per usual, George thinks of things after my opportunities. But tomorrow, as many of you know, is the groundbreaking for the wildlife crossing. It's going to be quite an event. And if you haven't already, gotten your entrance and so forth, you might as well not consider. You can go to King Gillette Ranch though, and there's having big screen TVs, and live streaming of the event, but the event itself is all closed.
And you'll be speaking, correct?
Yeah, very briefly, there's over 20 speakers. And so I've got about 2 minutes to speak. But at King Gillette Ranch, after you see the ceremony, they're going to have free lunch for the public. So
Oh, wow.
you show up for that.
Okay, so item 12, a request for status reports and items for subsequent agendas. No, then any items from the public? Devon? No. We do not have an executive closed session, I believe. Okay, so we'll adjourn this meeting.
Minutes.